there! I'm author Sarah A. Chrisman.
And I'm Gabriel Chrisman.
And today we're going to be discussing Lady Audley's Secret by Miss M.E. Braddon.
A famous sensation novel.
Yes, this is very much a sensation. Very scandalous.
Yes.
So the way we wound up with two copies of this is that the first one you read to me aloud, and then I wound up reading it for a book club. And for when he read it to me aloud, we had this nice antique copy, but for the book club I wanted a copy I could scribble all over, so I bought a cheap used copy. So we have two copies. Lady Audley's Secret is this really convoluted, really complicated sensation story. It's hard to talk about it without giving away something because there are so many twists and turns and secrets. But
which is the whole idea.
Which is the whole idea. Yes. It is the attraction. Psyche, that's my oatmeal. But it's a fun read.
Yes.
It really is. The story, okay, I'll be giving away some, but I can't talk about it without giving stuff away.
Right.
The idea is that this young, beautiful woman had been born very poor, and she married a dragoon. She married a military man who she thought was rich. And he was rich, except for when his father found out he'd married beneath him, he disowned him, basically. Cut him off without a penny.
Poof.
Poof. And so now she's married to this guy and they have no money. And then as soon as their child is born, he leaves her, like within days. He leaves her while she's asleep and the child's asleep. He just leaves her a note saying, I'm going to try to make some money, bye, basically. She doesn't know where he's gone. She doesn't know what the heck happened. She just knows he's left. 3 years later, to earn a living, she hires herself out as a governess.
And to do that, just because of the way that worked in the society, she had to hide the fact that she had a child.
Right. So she leaves the child with her dad. And then while she's working at a governess, 3 years after her husband abandons her, this guy named Lord Audley, a classic English lord, sees her, falls desperately in love with her, proposes marriage, and they get married. She doesn't tell him she'd been married before.
Or she technically was, in fact, still married.
She technically was, in fact, still married. And then her husband comes back.
And I don't think we should give away too much more.
I don't think we should give away too much more, except that it's not giving away anything to say that after her husband comes back, he disappears. Because that happens like in the second chapter. It happens really early in the book.
Yeah.
So it's not giving away too much to tell you that. Okay, now, if this story had been taking place in America, she could have divorced the first husband and lived happily ever after.
Yes, because they had an idea of divorce for abandonment in America, which they did not have legally in England. Right.
If your spouse had been gone for 2 years, didn't matter whether it was a husband or a wife, you could divorce them on grounds they had abandoned you. In most states in America. The law differed state by state, but most states in America you could divorce on grounds of abandonment after 2 years. British law was different, and British law was even more complicated.
And divorce was still far more complicated in England.
It was. And so in England, you didn't get divorce on grounds of abandonment until well into the 20th century. You had divorce ever since Henry VIII decided he was just going to declare...
For the nobility.
Yeah, for the nobility.
Right.
For the lower classes, actually, bigamy was a lot more common than divorce, just because divorce was so difficult to get for the lower classes.
Right.
And people who've looked into this and looked into all the church records have worked out that actually bigamy was fairly common in the lower classes in Britain for a long time, just because it was so hard for them to get divorced.
And in some cases it was unintentional, as in this case. She had no idea what had happened.
Right, she had no idea.
You had sailors' wives who had no idea if their husbands were ever going to come back.
Yeah.
You had numerous situations like that.
Yeah.
So this was not an uncommon or unthinkable situation.
Right, absolutely.
But, of course, then it's amplified and gets far more complicated because of the involvement of a marriage to a lord, and because of a hidden child and so many other things.
Right, and the fact that her first husband's, chum of his youth, so this friend who he actually hadn't seen in years at that point, but they'd been friends in school together, and when he comes back, the friend is like, brother!
Yes, right.
And so when the first husband disappears, this guy just decides, I'm going to work out what happened, no matter what.
Right. He clearly had no other friends.
Well, he had no other friends. He had nothing else to do.
Right.
He was technically a lawyer, but he had no cases. He's just sort of this degenerate young noble who's just wasting his time with his canaries. He has some canaries in a cage. Mm-hmm. And the only other thing he does is smoke his meerschaum pipes.
Yes.
He has a collection of 6 of them.
Clearly a full and complete life.
For him it was.
Yes.
But when his friend disappears, he sees that as a purpose.
Yes.
Never mind who gets hurt in the process. Mm-hmm. So, it's this incredibly sensational story.
And these sorts of sensational stories were a feature of the Victorian landscape, especially the late Victorian landscape. This copy is perfect because this is the way most of them were published and the way that most people encountered them. A cheap paperback.
It's not yellow, so we can't call it a yellowback novel, but it's darn close.
But these are the ones, in England you had yellowbacks, in America you had dime novels or penny pulps, you had the penny dreadfuls. They often were these sort of lurid or sensational stories that had, they were often targeted at women.
Well, the ones targeted at men is where we get a lot of the gunslinger legends from.
Yes, the westerns.
Yeah. The ones targeted at women tended to be more the scandalous affairs.
Right, or complicated relationships. Or, situations of bigamy or the marriage proposal's gone wrong or any number of things like that. Yeah. This definitely falls into that category.
Yeah.
And these were extremely affordable. Mm-hmm. They also relied on the fact that there was really widespread literacy, even among the lower classes, and there was a great demand for cheap entertainment that they could read and that would be of interest and they could discuss and all of that. And so these are really popular in the late 19th century. And these sold a lot more than what now gets remembered from the 19th century literature, all the high literature pieces. Those weren't what average people were reading. Mm-hmm. These were what average people were reading and enjoying.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So they're a fun little window into... Although, an interesting window, because reading one of these and trying to use it to interpret the 19th century is a bit like, I don't know, what's some ridiculous over-the-top show that people watch these days? I don't watch TVs.
I don't either.
Neither one of us watches TV, but we hear people talking about it. What's some crazy over-the-top
I'm trying
show?
to think of even a book series.
A book series? Twilight. I hate the Twilight series.
I think that one's
hate those books.
But, I mean, if you think about... I'm trying to think of a thriller series, like the Prey series.
I've never even read those.
John Sanford. I check lots of those.
Danielle Steele.
Okay, Danielle Steele would be a good one for...
I forced myself to read some Danielle Steele because I wanted to know what everybody was... This is very much like Danielle Steele.
Okay, I've never read anything by her, so...
Don't.
Yes.
Don't. You have better things to spend your time on and better things to waste your time on. Yeah. But yeah, trying to interpret the 19th century through these books is like trying to interpret the late 20th century through Danielle Steele. And I know she's still writing. How she's still writing, I'm not sure. But I know she's still churning things out. So, take it with a grain of salt. But it is a very interesting book.
It doesn't represent the way that things actually went, but it does represent the sort of things that people were reading at the time.
Right, right. And people do tend to be attracted to the lurid and sensational.
Yes.
Read a newspaper.
Yes. If it bleeds, it leads.
If it bleeds, it leads.
Yes.
And if you can, crank that up to 11, it'll sell even better.
Yes.
And this one definitely did.
Mm-hmm.
So,
if you're looking to read any of these sort of sensation novels, this one and The Woman in
The
White
Woman in White
are probably the two best ones to start with.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes.
Definitely. So, thank you for watching today. We hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a nice thumbs up. And remember to tell your friends about my books. Happy reading!